In our lessons, we include a list of resources, and in these resources, we have a list of suffixes. So I will select common suffixes, and you will see that we have separated them in derivational and in inflectional. And you will see that we include the list of the suffix, what part of speech do they change a word to be, and then what is the meaning? And we provide you with an example. So we have able, it's an adjective, a word that will have able will turn into an adjective, and then it means able to be. It's something that you can do. So we have the two examples. We have age as we'll say short edge because it won't be age, it will be edge. So I will say edge, it's a noun, shortage, package, so that way you're discussing both pronunciation with your students. So we have the derivational suffixes and the inflectional suffixes. And these are in your teacher manual. In the list of resources, you can select common suffixes and you will see the list of suffixes. Now, I will turn back into our table of contents. You see that we have 2 weeks that we offer lessons on suffixes. And again, we have suffixes connected based on derivational inflectional function that they will have. So I will select now the lesson to walk you through a lesson, and I will model part of it. Once I will go into the week on suffixes, again, we start with the lesson materials, and then we have our agenda. We also have the helpful resources. So the helpful resources will be a reminder about the suffixes in case you forget once you go to teach the lesson, and you need a very quick reminder or a quick refresher of what is derivational, what is inflectional, instead of having to go back on the website to locate the information. And we also have a link to how do I teach the strategy, strategy for reading, strategy for spelling, your agenda in case you need to include it for your lesson, and then the components of the lesson. Again, since this is our goal is to remind you, quick reminders of how to teach components. Once you will click into each one of the icons, that will bring you into how do you teach, and you have a very quick example of how do you teach that lesson. And then you will start with that portion of the lesson. So again, the lesson has the similar structure like the rest of the structure that we have seen so far. We always begin with an introduction. The teacher states the objective. There is an explanation of the specific focus of the day. The teacher will provide an explanation for that suffix. The teacher will model, students and teacher will practice together. Then students will work independently, and that will be the end of the reading tasks. Then the teacher will model the spelling. Then the students will spell the words. They will check with the teacher. The teacher will dictate a sentence to the students. And then finally, they will conclude the lesson with a reading of a book. So this is the structure of the lesson here too. So let's look at the lesson. We will work to read and spell multisyllabic words. These are often called big words. Multisyllabic words, as the term implies, they have many syllables. A syllable is a unit of pronunciation that has a vowel. If I speak like a robot, I can break words into syllables. For example, in the word capital, I say capital, 3 syllables. In the word capability, I say capability. I have 5 syllables. A syllable needs a vowel. Today we will work with suffixes and base words. A suffix carries meaning and it appears at the end of a base word. A base word is a word that can stand alone in speech. The two together, they make a new meaning. A suffix can be added to a noun and can create a new noun, can be added to a verb to create a noun, or can create an adverb. So we will have a chance by using the suffixes to create new words. Today we will work with the suffix ment, which means a noun when added to a verb, as in accomplishment, 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 meant. Accomplish, accomplishment. This changes the verb accomplish to the noun accomplishment, something that is the achieved. For example, he was able to accomplish a lot in 1 hour. That was quite an accomplishment. So you see, I used accomplish, accomplishment. We will also work with the suffix ness. as in smoothness. Ness will be added to an adjective to create a new noun. In this case, ness changes the word from a descriptor, smooth, to the general state, smoothness. For example, the blanket is smooth. I find the smoothness soothing. The smoothest of what? Of the blanket. So we will use our strategy. And what is that? When we see a suffix, we will draw a box around it. Then we will work with a base word. Remember, a syllable needs a vowel. When we have a vowel theme, we will underline the vowel theme. When we have a VCE syllable, then we will underline the vowel that says its name, place a dot on the silent E. When we see the consonant L, we will underline it. When we see compound words, we will look for the word parts. We should be flexible when working with syllables and read the word with the suffix and the base word. We should be thinking of the meaning of a word when working with the suffix and how the meaning of the base word changes. And I will add here, if you can read the word, you read the word. But if you don't, then you use your knowledge of syllable types. So we will practice reading words. I need to read this word. You see, I didn't read the word because if I read the word, what's the purpose of me during the process of reading the word? So I will use my strategy. I see I have a suffix and I will box the suffix meant. I will underline now each vowel because I cannot really read the rest of the word. I don't know how to read it. So I will underline the vowel. I see that I have a closed syllable, ach, because I can't separate the digraphs, right? Ach, if. I see that I have IV that says Eve. The word is achievement. Achievement. The word is achievement. It comes from achieve. So I could have read achieve and added meant. Achievement. Achievement. Hercules accomplished several achievements. Achievements. Okay, I will now continue. I have this word. Again, I see that I have a suffix. I will box my suffix. And then I will break the rest of the word. I have underline, underline. I have two of the same consonants I will break in between. Stubbornness, stubbornness. Stubborn is an adjective. Stubbornness is a noun. I am stubborn. Adjective. My worst characteristic is my stubbornness. Stubbornness. And now I have a noun. And then the teacher will continue. So in this process, again, we are working with the students to understand that they need to be flexible. So the truth is that if they can read the word, we want them to read the word. We want them to look at the parts because now if I can read the word achieve and I see meant because my eye went to the suffix and I isolated it and I see achieve, I can read quickly achievement. If I can't, then I will break words in syllable. The same thing with the word stubbornness. If I can read stubborn, I will read stubborn. And then I will add the ness, stubbornness. If I can't, I will break the word in syllable. We want the students to always go into the breaking words in syllables if they cannot read the word. So after this, they will read collaboratively words. And then the students will work independently on a list of words. After that, the teacher will spell words. How will this happen? Watch me. Reading and writing are connected. If we can read words, we can also figure out how to spell words. If we know syllables, we can also check out spelling. Now that we know suffixes, we can use this knowledge to spell words and better understand their meaning. So the word I have is happiness. I want to spell the word happiness. I hear ness, and also I hear the word happy. So I will spell happiness. 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 You see, I spelled it with a Y. Happiness. However, when I add ness, I drop the Y and I add I. So I will drop the Y, I will add I. So now the word I have is happiness. Happy is an adjective. Happiness is a noun. She was happy. You could see the happiness in her eyes. So happy, happiness. The word I have, the next word I have is the word loneliness. Loneliness. I hear lonely, so I will spell lonely. And I hear ness, which is my suffix. I know what the suffix does. It turns a word into a noun. So I will spell lonely with a Y and then ness. But I will drop the Y to add an I. So now the word is loneliness, not loneliness. Lonely is an adjective. Loneliness is a noun. He described the loneliness he felt on his solo expedition. Loneliness. Now, I would like you to spell words. I will ask you to spell the words. You should always check your spelling and your writing by rereading, rechecking. Make sure to listen carefully to the vowel sounds. Say the syllables, think of the suffixes, think the sounds within each syllable to determine the type, and then spell each sound and check the word and think of the word's meaning. Ready? Begin. The word is, and then the teacher provides each one of the words. After the task, they will work on in the dictation task. So we're learning to read and spell words so we can become more accurate in reading and spelling words in sentences. I will dictate to you a sentence. I would like you to write the words in the sentence. Listen, listen, listen. This class attentiveness is to be admired by all. And this is something that finds us all in agreement. This class attentiveness is to be admired by all. And this is something that finds us all in agreement. So the goal is for the students to correctly spell the parts that they are the focus of the day, attentiveness, attentive, and then agreement in the sentence that they're provided. I say this because if they spell wrong, I don't know, the word admired, for instance, if they do spell that wrong, you will correct it. You will, because you always write the correct sentence in the board for the students to see how the correct version is, and you're explaining the spelling as you go. But the overemphasis that you should give is the attentiveness and the agreement, and why attentive has two T's instead of having one. Otherwise, it will be attentive in this case. And finally, you will close the lesson with the work by working on the book. So that is the overall set of the suffix lessons that you will be doing. And you will be working with the students not just on derivational suffixes, but also on inflectional suffixes. The goal, again, is for students to understand the spelling of the suffixes, the function within a word when they see a longer word, but also what do they do into the base word, so that they can also understand when they read words in sentences, what is the function of that word within that sentence. Because again, grammar is really demanding for students. So that was the lesson overall, an explanation on suffixes.